In part 2 of my pursuit to find lower cost methods than the Gentec or Smith Little Torch regulators for the purposes of oxypropane brazing applications using 1 pound propane tanks, I will show how I assembled regulators this time, like this one, which cost only $12.50, which is unbelievable, or using barbecue hose regulators like this, which with the fittings costs only $33, or to go ultra premium with barbecue regulators like this, which has an outlet pressure gauge, and including the fittings only costs $48, only a fraction of the cost of the Gentec and especially the Smith Little Torch regulator. Here are a few ways that I've found to be able to attach barbecue type regulators to 1 pound propane tanks. The lowest cost way is this type that I found on AliExpress. It has built in the fitting necessary to fit onto the 1 pound propane tanks. And then on the outlet, it has a 1/4 inch hose barb. Now, that doesn't make it the easiest, but not impossible, to attach a flashback arrestor. The hose barb has a 1mm pitch M8 thread, which is not the most common threading. It's fine threading. It's not the typical M8. So to get one of these type B adapters to fit onto here, what I'm going to do later in the video is solder these two together. They fit together quite nicely, and the flat ends of both the hex on the hose barb and the flat edge of this fitting, they fit together nicely, and solder should fill that in really well. And then the whole fitting would be very similar in style to the name brand fittings, the Gentec and the Smith branded regulators. The other way to go would be you can, with one of these fittings, which are sold as adapters for attaching 1 pound propane tanks to either barbecues or, all the various things that you would use a 20 pound propane tank with. And if you get one of these, you could use any barbecue regulator. These are only $15 on Amazon, or you can go with like the nicer kind, which is like twice the price, and it gives you a outlet pressure gauge, although that's not really necessary. You can get the same thing accomplished with the lower cost regulators. And then when it comes to fittings, you would need one of these 3/8 flare two NPT threaded ends, and you can get them in both female and male. The female fittings I could only find, and they were twice the price as the male fittings. But however, the female fitting reduces the amount of fittings needed by one. So you would just need these two fittings to go onto a barbecue regulator hose. And then with the male, you would just need a coupler fitting, and this is actually a air hose, a 1/4-inch air hose coupling, and they are NPT thread, so it would do the same thing. It's just slightly longer than the female fitting, but depending on what you already have on hand and so on, those are two ways to go. I have the regulator with the integrated connection for the 1-pound propane tanks attached. You can see I have my soldered together fitting. I have the regulator set on its high setting. I have it hooked up to a Smith little torch. This is an actual real Smith little torch rather than the Chinese knockoffs, which seem very common today. The reason why I'm mentioning that is so that way you have an idea of what to expect if you were to, go this route and get this regulator. I have the number 5 tip on here. You can see that although this regulator doesn't put out particularly high pressure, I don't have a way of measuring. I don't have a pressure gauge that I could easily set up to it. I don't know exactly what pressure it's putting out, but out of this tip, it has enough pressure to actually push the flame away, and then it becomes unstable. So for these small torches, it provides enough pressure. And you can see that it puts out a good flame. It's really nice and stable. So the propane regulator has enough pressure to maintain a good stable flame. I've messed around with all the tip sizes that come in come along with the Smith torch, so, and they're all the same in terms of stability. Now I have the $15 barbecue regulator hooked up, and it has the adapter on there as well that adapts it to the 1-pound propane tank. And I'll fire up the torch. can see that it produces a nice flame. Not too much different than the other regulator. However, because the barbecue regulator puts out a higher pressure than this does, the cone is a bit sharper, but it's not drastically different. If you got something useful out of this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. As far as prices go for these various methods, the cost of this method is $12.50. I'm assigning a value, well, to start, this regulator on AliExpress is $10.50, and I'm assigning a value of $2 to this fitting. These fittings are kind of pricey on Amazon, and if you have an Airgas in your area, they sell them for $1.83, and probably other welding shops will sell it for in the range of $2. So, and of course, I'm also not including sales tax, which will vary. So I'm cheating a little bit with assigning the $12.50 price to this. But in terms of list price, the list prices for these items, $12.50 is what it cost. Oh, I didn't do a demo of this regulator simply because it can do everything that this one can do and more. And so it just wasn't needed, and I didn't want to make the video too long. Costs for these barbecue regulators. So this is $9 and this is $9. A note on this adapter. On Amazon, they sell a version of this with a ball valve in it. The reason why that is important is because of these large threads, after you've have the propane tank attached and you go to remove it, this connection is more likely to come loose than this connection. If you don't notice that when it's occurring and you take it all the way off, propane will just come shooting out the top of this. And that would really be a problem because it would be coming out completely unrestricted. So take that into consideration, and if you're concerned, definitely get the ball valve version. A benefit to these barbecue regulators is the fact that you can also just hook them up to the 20-pound propane tanks. And actually that same connection, I believe, goes all the way up to the 60-pound tanks. So you would have the capability to, without buying anything in addition, to use any size range of those tanks. As far as me only demonstrating them on the Smith Little Torch, the reason for that is it's obvious that these barbecue regulators can power large torches. You know, I mean, they power the large propane burners and barbecues and all that kind of stuff, of course. And I wanted to just show that they can also be used at very low pressures. In fact, when using this regulator, I measured that it was less than 1 psi when using the Smith torch. And because I got the same results with this regulator, it can go less than 1 psi. As far as this regulator and pressure, the seller does not list what pressure comes out of this regulator. But using it with this torch, which I did a review on, the largest tip attached to this torch running off of this regulator, it doesn't produce a very sharp flame. So that shows its upper limit in terms of its capability. However, it does just fine on the Smith Micro Torch, and has more room than that, because the smaller tips for this torch, it powers just fine. I think that covers that topic. I did come across a few other low-cost methods for creating, like needle valve type control methods to go on the 1 pound propane tanks. I don't know if anybody has an interest in knowing of other lower cost methods for the needle valve ways, but if there is some interest in that, I can go over those. Just leave a comment.